Hey everybody, this is Marco Amaya and Ethan Foster on the Patriot Torch. And so we're going to talk about how right now it's June, it's LGBTQ month. So LGBTQ tells us how to live our life now. So now I'm straight and I'm proud of it, but it's triggering so many snowflakes. What do you think about that? Why is that happening?
Well, I think gay pride is ridiculous. I think straight pride's ridiculous too. I mean, I don't think publicizing your sexuality is something that you should do personally. I think your private life should be kept out of the public eye. I mean, keep me out of your bedroom.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Actually, I'm not actually trying to say I'm going to start a straight pride parade myself because I don't really care enough. But the fact that the left is so obsessed with me not doing that and trying to stop me from doing that, that it makes me have to talk about it and makes me feel like I actually like it. Because it's like, I don't really care if, telling the whole world that I'm straight, but the fact that the left is so triggered by it tells me that there's something there. I need to focus on this. It's kind of like something that, whatever gets suppressed is something that we have to look at and see what's going on. Why is the left so upset about straight people? It's like, isn't this the normal way that humans have always been? I mean, I heard a really funny perspective was like, gay people, they're okay with pushing gayness everywhere, but if it's a straight person that's kind of pushing it, it's total double standard. And then not realizing that, look, actually, wasn't it straight people that gave birth to a gay person in the first place? I heard that and I was like, that's kind of funny.
Well, 2% of people in the world fall into the LGBT category, and I understand that the reason why they're so flamboyant about it nowadays is because they do point at oppression, but I don't think in my time spent here that I've ever seen any oppression to the LGBT community. Just because somebody doesn't agree with something doesn't mean that they're anti whatever it is that they're disagreeing with. So someone would say that we're anti-LGBT because we don't approve of gay marriage, and I disagree with homosexuality as a whole, but lots of people do lots of things that I think are sinful that, all I'm going to say is I disagree with it, so that's...
Yeah, you have the right to, be whoever you want, you can be with whoever you want to be with, but it's kind of different with LGBTQ because people also equate LGBTQ as all the gay people in the world. But actually, there's a lot of gay people that I know of that don't like LGBTQ because LGBTQ has become a political tool. Because not only are they saying, oh, we're fighting for, gay oppression or whatever, but it's also like if you're a Trump supporter but you're gay, they shun you. It's not like they accept all gay people. It's just they accept gay people that support their beliefs, and that's it. It's like a cult. So there's a lot of people. I know that guy I met in Charlotte. He's like part of this. He's called Deplorable Pride, and he's like a Trump supporter that is gay, openly gay. But it's kind of he doesn't like the LGBTQ because of how oppressive it is in its mentality. And of course, they attack everyone that likes straight pride, and the leftists go along with it. But look, if you feel like you believe in equality, you have to let gay people have parades and straight people. You can't just say, oh, only gay people can have parades, because then you're just not being equal. You're not giving equal rights to everybody.
Right. So I'm sure he's been hurt by the intersectionality politics, being a conservative and a gay conservative at that. So with the intersectionality of the situation, basically the leftists are saying that because you fall into the intersectionality as a gay man, you're supposed to vote Democrat, when in the eyes of reality, he can vote any way that he wants. It's the same way that if there's a black conservative, everyone points a finger at him and calls him an Uncle Tom just because the leftists think that
right, exactly.
Everybody in your intersectionality column should think the same way. It insinuates that somebody, just because they are of the same ethnic group as somebody else, that they are not allowed to think any differently than that other person, which I find more disrespectful than anything else that I've seen in the media in recent days. You know, just because you disagree with something doesn't mean that I wouldn't be civil in any conversation. It doesn't mean that I couldn't befriend somebody. It just
Right.
means that I disagree with it, you know.
Right, because who are you going to meet that agrees with 100% of every single thing you ever say? It never happens. It's like impossible. Unless, I mean, yeah, most, even with close friends, you're going to disagree with. So it's important to like always have an open mind to discuss these things. But some people don't want to discuss it. They just want to oppress their view. They just want to insult you. That's what we were talking about yesterday. Oh, you know, once people get too upset to where they can't even think logically anymore to discuss with you the point of view, they start insulting you.
Well, that means the argument's not in good faith. So, or excuse me, the debate's not in good faith. You know that I noticed that when people started to blatantly throw insults at you online, that they had no more rationale behind their side of the debate. They had nothing else but to attack you personally, which, you know, was disappointing to me because I find open debates fun. We're still searching to find any leftist to come on the show and just have an open discussion. I mean, we're not going to demonize you, dehumanize you, or anything. We just like to have open debate. I think it's fun. It can be civil, and we can just go back and forth. So,
yeah, messages, whatever you need to do. It's funny because like I feel like the leftists. I've had a leftist tell me that just our show reminds them of terrorist stuff, just because there's a flag behind us. There's leftists that are triggered just by the fact that we're patriots. Like the fact that we love America, they subconsciously have been brainwashed to just hate America and just hate conservatives, and anything that's even connected to Christianity is somehow an evil, like, terrorist stuff in their mind. But then when you question it and you ask them, why do you feel like that about the American flag? You know, then they start changing the subject because they realize it makes no sense. It's almost like they're not aware of what the propaganda that they're taking in from the leftist media. Because as soon as you question their logic, they have to change the subject, or they start insulting you. So that means it almost makes me feel like they're not even thinking about the views that they're spewing. They're actually all they're doing is regurgitating what they just received without processing it and developing their own view upon what they've taken in. That's like my impression of what's going on. And the fact that they're imagining what I represent. Like, I say that I love being straight, and then they imagine in their minds, oh, he loves being straight, he hates gay people. That's like their conclusion, but it's completely twisted from reality. They're taking what I said about myself, about just being a straight person, and then they take that and say, you're trashing gays, you're trashing the LGBTQ community, you don't respect them, blah, 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 which is a complete extraction and twist of what I said, and creating a completely other tangent that's not even related to what I'm saying. So that's what I've noticed is like, it's kind of like a derangement syndrome of some sort, where they have to completely assume what you are, and people just assume, you know, like you said with the black person being a conservative, like they assume that this black person has to be a Democrat because he's black. Like they have this characterization of each thing by race and by color and by the country you came from.
Right. Well, that's intersectionality politics at its finest. And
Right.
for those of you that don't understand that all three of these flags behind us are American flags, that's appalling to me. The "Don't Tread on Me" was the original American flag in the Revolutionary War. And if you think that the American flag is a symbol of terrorism and you were born and raised in this land and you do not love the American flag, then you need to get out. You do not belong here.
Yeah, what are they doing here? That means that whenever they drive down to Chick-fil-A, they feel like they're going to be shot by a terrorist. Like, I mean, that's where you see American flags are everywhere. The American flag just means I love your right to be gay, and I love your right to defend yourself with a gun. I love your right to free speech. Like, they think I'm like completely hating gays and completely against all their rights. It's like you're just making all that up because someone told you that you're oppressed. When really no one's even against that. Most people are praising gays right now.
Well, I think it's easier to disagree with something when you don't understand it, and really, I guess from a social construct, that's where my head is as far as looking at it socially. But religiously, I think the way I do for different reasons. But again, I can sit civilly and have a conversation with anybody. I'm not taking away your humanity. I'm just saying I disagree with what what you're doing, but also I believe that two consenting adults behind closed doors can do whatever the hell they want. Just
As long as it's not bothering us, right? Exactly. As long as it's not negatively affecting me or children, innocent children that don't understand.
Well, and I'm not even telling people not to be gay. I'm just saying. I don't want to hear about it. You don't want to hear about how straight I am. You don't want to hear about the straight sex that I have. I don't want to hear about. It's just.
How insane would they freak out if we had a straight Pride Month? Like a whole month dedicated to straight people, they would be freaking out.
Well, it sounds ridiculous, and they would point to say that straight people have never dealt with oppression, which is...
That's the first thing they always say.
Which is true, but
it's a twist on reality, because they're saying straight people are never oppressed, they have the easiest life, but that doesn't make sense, because there's different reasons why people get oppressed that's not related to their sex. There's plenty of straight people that don't live easy lives just because they're straight. There's tons of straight people that live hard lives because of different things that happen for whatever reason. Right now, you have conservative Christians that are straight that are being banned off Facebook and silenced. So there's an example of the leftists trying to oppress them, but they never talk about that. There's no oppression there. But if it's a gay person, it's the worst thing in the world. So it's this double standard that people are just tired of. People are just tired of it because it doesn't make sense. We're all in this together. We're not trying to divide people. I've had people tell me that, oh, you love being straight, you're dividing people. Gosh, where do they get these ideas? I'm literally trying to unite people, realize we need to accept each other for who we are, whether you're straight, you're gay, whatever. We need to be able to accept each other, and so that we can move on together rather than trying to fight against each other all the time. It's funny because there are a lot of straight people that are against what I'm saying about loving being straight, which is kind of confusing because it's not that many gay people I see are hating on me. I've noticed that too. It's a lot of the leftist straight people that hate me for loving being straight. It's like a weird psychosis, leftist mentality of like bowing down to political correctness to the maximum level. Meanwhile, the actual gay people are not attacking me.
Right. Well, I would have the same statement to you that I would give to anyone that I disagree with on anything. Just because you disagree with what somebody's doing or saying doesn't mean you need to demonize what they're doing or saying. I think everybody has a right to do as they please. That's why we live in the United States of America. But, just because you disagree with someone's activities, that's as far as it goes. I'm just saying that I disagree with what you're doing. I'm not going to persecute you for your beliefs. I'm just going to say I disagree. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the things that they never talk about straight gay people do get oppressed, but guess where they get oppressed from? Where are they getting brutally attacked? It's from the Islamic religion. It's from the radical Islamicists that are throwing them off buildings and executing them all the time in
it still happens in Middle Eastern countries.
Is that happening here? I never see that here. Americans are doing that to gay people.
Well, there was one terrorist attack in Orlando a few years ago.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, a gay bar got shot up, which is despicable. But yeah, it's a whole nother conversation. If you really want to make a difference in the world, they should be looking at radical Islamic terrorists.
Yeah, why is they're silent? The LGBTQ, they're totally silent about Islam oppressing gay people.
Well, so are leftists as a whole, though. It's not just anyone in the LGBT community.
Exactly.
Anyone on the left side of the aisle, they won't say a word about radical Islam.
So what is it about? If they're not actually about trying to help, stop oppression of gay people as they say they are. Because if they truly were, they would address this. But if they don't, that means, what is it about? It's more of a political thing. It's more of like against the right and against Trump, and it's not really based on true logic at all. So that's pretty much what I wanted to say about that topic. What else is there about that?
Well, I know there's been a widespread talk in the news, as of today, that I've seen that top head at Google is now openly saying that conservatives, there's going to be a push to ban conservatives from YouTube and Google and different social media websites, Facebook, Twitter, what was the other one that Pinterest?
Oh,
never
yeah,
used
yeah.
Pinterest, but they're trying to take conservatives off of Pinterest.
Oh, yeah,
and,
they just banned Zero
right,
Hedge.
and good timing too. Is the 2020 election is
Oh,
nearing.
yeah, what a surprise.
Right, but honestly, so now they're putting all conservatives in the same category. So there was an article in the New York Times that had a picture of Ben Shapiro and a bunch of alt-right KKK neo-Nazis, and basically so basically what they're trying to say is that all conservatives are alt-right, they're neo-Nazis, which if you've paid any attention to anti-Semitism in the last few years, you would know that Ben Shapiro has been the number one target of the alt-right, and he is a conservative that happens to be Jewish. So it's just appalling to me that they're trying to lump all
It's
of us
such a
in
fraud. They obviously don't. They're obviously preying on the ignorance of their leftist viewers. Like, they don't actually, because if you look into it at all, just for a few minutes, you would know that there's a big difference between Nazis and Ben Shapiro or Paul Joseph Watson or Alex Jones, or they're totally different people.
Well, Shapiro, he gets persecuted by Nazis because he's Jewish. I mean,
Yeah.
he has death threats to his house. I could assume almost monthly, if not more often than that. I mean, multiple people were just arrested by the FBI a few weeks ago for sending him death threats.
Yeah, I mean, just look at how insane it is that they're saying, oh, Ben Shapiro and Paul Joseph Watson and all these different conservative speakers are like a gateway drug into the horrible neo-Nazis. Like, it's like a step,
Right.
like a progression. It's like that's the way they're trying to tell it to people. Like, oh, this is what happens when you listen to these people. You're turned into a Nazi that wants to oppress everyone. It doesn't make any sense, because these people like Paul Joseph Watson, Ben Shapiro, all they are just conservatives that represent a huge portion of the population the way we think. Not that I'm saying I agree with everything they say, but these people aren't promoting violence and.
So it makes me wonder, especially doing this podcast, should we try to walk a more thin line or a thicker line of how far we get to being on the edge as to where we think that we're going to get banned? I don't think so. I think if I get banned off social media, it's probably going to be for pro-life posts, if anything. I'd almost put a statistic up today that there were 42 million babies mercilessly slaughtered in 2018, and you can only imagine how many babies have been killed since abortion was legalized decades ago. And it's egregious and disgusting, and if you want to look at something that should actually be a civil rights movement, it should be banning abortion across the country.
It's happening right now, and I'm really proud of all the states that have done it so far, as are introducing bills or passing bills banning abortions. Obviously, with few exceptions, like if it kills the mother and stuff, but mostly it makes sense to prevent people from just murdering kids all the time, just whenever they feel it's convenient for their life and financially or whatever. And so it's very important because, and this is related to something we were talking about earlier. The abortions, remember, these doctors, they take advantage of these body parts. They don't just throw the body parts away. They also sell them. They make money off this stuff.
Right.
I mean, we've had Project Veritas, I remember, is an organization that has like a sting operation type projects where they have someone getting into the operation as far as making friends with these executives of Planned Parenthood, and so that they can get a hidden camera, talk and have them talking about what they actually do behind the scenes, so that you can have it as evidence, as journalism, to show the public like these are what these people are doing. And they were able to get like executives from certain clinics saying, oh yeah, we negotiating the prices of the parts, literally on camera. I've seen the videos. They do this stuff, and so with now you're saying Trump,
right? The Trump administration banned selling of any fetal tissue. So basically, if a baby's killed in an abortion, it's now illegal to sell its body parts for research.
Right, that's huge.
Which is a big step in the right direction, but ultimately, I think Roe v. Wade will be overturned. It might take upwards of 30 years. I'd like to see lives be saved a lot faster than that, but I do think in the future people are just going to start to look at this for what it is, and it is the slaughter and dismemberment of a human child in the womb, an innocent life being taken
Yeah, that's definitely what it is. There's no point in it. I mean, it shouldn't even be a debate as far as what it is, because it's obviously life. It's like,
well, and then you see the my body, my choice argument, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm sure slave owners in the 1850s said the same thing, my property, my choice, and look where we are today. There's been millions of children mercilessly slaughtered for decades on end, and at some point, this has to stop. When as a society do we look at what's really going on? And I think that's one of the bigger issues, especially on the left, that people are being desensitized to abortion, and they use euphemisms. Like, even calling abortion is a euphemism. Like, if you look at what is actually happening when an abortion is being taken place, there's no way that you're not going to be on the right side of this. And I do believe when Roe v. Wade is ultimately overturned, we will be on the right side of history.
Yeah, it's like a murderer that walks up to a person on the street and shoots them, kills them, and says, "Oh, I just aborted that person." Like, no, you obviously just killed and murdered that person. But they don't equate that to the same thing in the womb, where it's an innocent life that hasn't done anything. They're totally innocent, and then they're just killing that person and tearing it into parts and stuff, and even selling it, which is even crazier when you think about it. It's like imagine killing someone and then taking their parts and selling it. It's just like really disgusting, honestly. And obviously I'm so glad that Trump did that. I really support that, and it takes away the incentive of these doctors to do those things to begin with. It's part about taking away the money from abortion. That's kind of the key here. Because when there's so much money being made off abortion...
Well, defunding it's one thing, but I want to see it outlawed.
Yeah,
I want to see an outright ban. I'm here, I'm a pro-lifer because I want to save lives. I can take the money away from the organization, that's a great step, but I do ultimately want to see Roe v. Wade challenged in the courts. I think with Brett Kavanaugh's being appointed to the Supreme Court last year, that's another good step. Maybe if we get one more judge in there,
more people,
we'll be looking good.
Right, getting all these people, not just the federal level, which is super important, but also locally. It's awesome to have more and more people involved locally, because then we can actually get things done locally, just the same way these states have been passing these abortion
bills.
bills.
You need to reach out to your congressmen, your senators in your states to get things done. And I've taken affirmative action myself in doing that, and reaching out to Mark Meadows and Tom Tillis and Virginia Fox, people that represent us here in North Carolina. So until we get Roy Cooper out of office, I think we're kind of SOL right now. But in the future... And I don't anticipate that he'll be in office after next year. I mean,
it's planting the seed is what's important.
Right.
It takes time, but it's also about people getting into the government and not just reaching out also, which is good, but like just getting into it. Because I realize, like, look, there needs to be more people like us in the government. You know what I mean? That think like us, and we can't be afraid of being totally politically incorrect. And not afraid to cross the line when it comes to the leftist censoring people.
I'm not PC.
Yeah, exactly. Because the internet I've noticed that the internet now is shrinking in terms of how much they're accepting you to post. It's shrinking. It's starting to become narrow. They're starting to censor more and more people. That's how they always do it. If you're like someone that's like a dictatorship or a monopoly that wants to control something, you don't just come out and be like, all right, guys, we're banning all the conservatives right now, just like that, because everyone would freak out.
Little by little. You take things away little by little.
Exactly.
Well, that's what fascism is. That's what the Nazis did in World War II. That's how they brainwashed an entire nation of people and demonized anyone of the Jewish faith. But in other political news, Joe Biden claims that he's going to cure cancer, which is hysterical because... no, you will not. And he was also caught plagiarizing another speech. It's at least when I quote somebody on the show, like I quote Shapiro a lot, at least I give him credit. Joe Biden he plagiarized a speech from a movie. I guess it was a popular 1980s movie. It's not something that, it's before our time, but people called him out on it. And when he was running back in the 80s for president in 88, he got caught plagiarizing a speech back then.
I heard about that.
And then he stole Michael Avenatti's campaign slogan.
Oh, he did?
All this happened in the same week. I just read that last one today. I mean,
He's like this guy that just does anything for a vote. Like watched those hilarious comedians like the Hodge twins. You ever heard them?
No.
They were making this funny comment about how he's basically Joe Biden would do anything for a vote. That's really what he comes down to. He's like a prostitute for votes. Like if it doesn't matter how crazy it is that he has to say something like cure cancer, which is like a whole nother topic, but just saying these outrageous things like we're gonna say, if you don't vote for us, the Republicans are gonna put you black people back in chains and all this stuff like pandering, like making them scared of the Republicans and over complete made up stuff. He's just doing anything for a vote. He's just playing on people's emotions, whatever he has to say. He even flip-flopped on like a topic within a matter of like 3 weeks. He like flipped on it like 3 times. It was
the Hyde Amendment.
Yeah, the Hyde Amendment.
It was the Hyde Amendment.
Yeah.
But I think he's an absolute catastrophe, honestly. I still think he's the best bet that the Democrats have in 2020. I don't see Bernie making any headway. I think he has a little more energy than Joe Biden does, but I think Bernie's just too much of a loon bag, honestly. I think he's too far socialist. I do think the radical leftists, especially the young socialists, the young millennials, the Gen Z socialists that are right around our age, they love Bernie Sanders, but what they don't understand is the moderates of the party are what carry that party. That's why Joe Biden's been doing so well in the polls right now.
Right, that's true.
Which still, it doesn't mean anything because if you look at 2016, Jeb Bush was way out in front. So it's too early to tell, but if people want to know why is Joe Biden doing so well, it's because
I don't think he hasn't openly said he's a socialist. Because I think that's part of the...
I don't think he is.
I don't think he has. Because that's part of, I think, one of the reasons why Bernie's in the background a little bit, because people still have like this... It has a bad taste in your mouth, the word socialism. Like, it's even with the moderates, they're like, it just looks too radical because everyone knows socialism leads to communism. It's a dangerous road. Joe Biden is probably, let's face it, he would sell himself out, he would sell his mother out to socialism in a heartbeat. Well, but he's not going to openly, say like, oh, I'm about to raise your taxes and all this stuff, because that's what Bernie does. Bernie is almost like more honest, basically, about what he's doing.
Right, he is. I think Joe Biden nods at socialism here and there just to keep the radicals in the Democratic Party off his back, which hasn't been working because they've still been all over him. But he does nod at socialist policies. But what the radical leftists need to understand is that Joe Biden is your only chance. Bernie Sanders is not winning the nomination. The only chance he had to honestly win the nomination was in 2016, and he lost to Hillary Clinton, who was the worst candidate to ever run for president in the history of the United States.
Yeah, because she stole the votes. It wasn't like she stole the votes from Bernie. She wasn't a legitimate candidate. She just knew how the political machinery worked and had the establishment on her side, pretty much. Versus Bernie, that was more like a lunatic that just
so I think we're seeing repercussions now with conservatives being banned, even as of today, from back to the same saying that Democrats honestly believe that the fact that Hillary Clinton lost the election was illegitimate. They think that she won, and that's why they want conservatives to be banned off of social media, because they point at social media companies and say, she lost because of you and misinformation and WikiLeaks.
Fake news.
Right, and that's what they're doing. Now they're going to start putting pressure on the social media companies, and they're just going to apply pressure and pressure until conservatives get banned. And it's very convenient timing for them that all the campaigns are just starting to take off, and soon we're going to start seeing Trump's campaigns for 2020 come back around here. The good news
is, that's a great point you bring up, because I wanted to bring that up too, was that Trump is an attorney general Barr. They are hinting at investigations into the social media companies and kind of openly talking about it now, because they know they need to do something. I mean, if their fans and their constituents are getting banned all over the place, I'm talking about Trump and all the supporters, then he's going to have a really disadvantage when it comes to the 2020 election. So I really hope he does something about this monopoly of leftist social media companies, Pinterest banning Zero Hedge now, along with all these other companies. Zero Hedge, I forgot to mention this. You know how they banned this Zero Hedge? They grouped that organization into the porn sites that are banned on their site.
Right. I saw that today.
It's like, that's ridiculous, dude. It's like they never post anything pornographic at all. It's just a conservative site. So yeah, the social media companies, they're all working together, kind of like a cartel, that's banning all these people off all the conservatives from their sites. So it is becoming a monopoly. If all these companies are doing the exact same thing, then I don't even see conservative. There's not even like a conservative social media company doing this to leftists. Like, I don't see that happening.
Well, no, and that's when you have to really be careful, because when you look at what Nazi Germany did to its own people in World War II, they started to censor and take away their political opposition, and that's what the Democrats are doing right now. You know, I'm not calling Democrats Nazis. I think it undermines what Jewish people actually went through during the Holocaust, but what I'm saying is they are implementing fascist policies. You are seeing these liberal companies implement fascist policies to silence anybody that has an opposing political view than them.
Right, exactly. Because it's not that the Democrats are Nazis. No, they're definitely not. But they're maybe unknowingly, unwittingly, not even realizing it, that they're taking the same footsteps that the Nazis took, censoring your enemies, and that's totally disregarding the free speech, and then pretending that you're a private company that does whatever you want. Well, no, because you consider yourself a platform, which means you're supposed to be an open communication, open tool for the public to use, but then you're a publisher all of a sudden controlling what everyone says. That's not how it works, and that's why the law can go against these people, as well as their monopolies that they're having in creating. They want to control elections. That's really what they want to do. They just want to ban whoever they want, whenever they want to, so that they can control political views and political elections all over the world. It's not just here. It's actually a huge problem. It's not even just an American problem. It's a multinational problem. So, that's something that I wanted to talk about as we wrap this up, because the elections are coming up pretty soon. The landscape is changing really fast as far as like what's happening politically, but the same principles are still the same. Free speech is like a super huge priority. Free right to life is super important, and just basically defending our rights against tyrannical leftists.
Right, and I think the one thing that Trump has going for him is how well the economy is doing, the capitalist economy, mind you. I don't think the American people want to hear that our entire economy is going to be destroyed just to implement socialist policies. Yeah.
I mean, it's socialism destroys every economy because it takes away the free market, which is the only thing that actually produces wealth. So, all right, well, thanks for watching this episode of the Patriot Torch with me, Marco Mai, and Ethan Foster, and we'll have a lot more coming up soon. And so please share and subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.